Okay, I'd like to record a few videos tonight, but that's not gonna happen because I have a bit of a headache. Where is sound coming from? Look, it's not I'm just gonna react to one Yarn Hub video tonight because there's like I have an air pressure headache. You know, those suck ass. Let's find out the hero again of two. If you pass Inseparable friendship.
It's December the 4th, 1950, and Lieutenant Thomas J. Hudner is flying his F-4U Corsair above the forests and mountains of North Korea, deep into enemy territory. All is not well. His element leader and friend, Ensign Jesse Al Brown, has been forced to crash his Corsair on a mountainside after taking damage from enemy fire. The weather is bitterly cold, and enemy forces are in the area and almost certainly on their way to capture the downed pilot. Hudner flies over the stricken plane and is relieved to see Brown push the canopy of the cockpit back and wave to signal he's okay. But even though smoke is coming from under the cowling, Brown does not leave the aircraft. Realizing something is dreadfully amiss, Hudner makes a dramatic and incredibly brave decision. He too will put his plane down on the mountainside to try and save his friend. Brown grew up in Mississippi in a time of racial segregation. He was born into an impoverished family, but his parents made education a priority.
Good.
And he graduated from high school.
Yeah.
He had a passion for aircraft and flying.
You know?
To pay for his further graduated from high school.
Before backpacks.
He had a passion for aircraft and flying. To pay for his further education, Jesse waited tables at a bar for U.S. Army soldiers, where he was frequently subject to racism.
Dude.
He managed to earn $600 to pay for college and graduated from Ohio State University. Enlisting in the Navy, he earned his pilot wings.
I mean, like, don't piss off food servers. They can spit in your food. Or put rat poison in.
And was the first African-American aviator in the Navy to pass basic training.
Hell yeah.
Jesse was married to his wife, Daisy. They had a daughter, Pam.
Aww.
Tom Hudner came from a well-to-do family and was due to go to Harvard, but instead he volunteered for the Navy. Despite the two men's very different backgrounds, they became firm friends. In 1950, they were both on the aircraft carrier USS Late as part of Squadron VF-32. They were flying F-4U-4 Corsairs, conducting missions deep into North Korea to support US Marines on the ground.
I think that was also the Skipper plane from the Planes franchise.
The Corsair was a snarling beast of an aircraft,
that is like
with
dead
a
ass
reputation
plane.
of being fun, but hard to handle. It had an 18-cylinder radial engine with over 2,100 horsepower. In his later years, Tom spoke of the events of that day. This audio is of Tom, in his own words, telling how he met and became friends with Jesse, and the incredible story of how he tried to save his friend back in the winter of 1950.
I
was scheduled for my first flight, was in the locker room, changing into my flight gear when Jesse came in. Now, I knew that Jesse was in the squadron. I knew.
Those are Top Gun references on the lockers.
I knew who he was, but I knew almost nothing else about him. But he introduced himself to me, and I reached out my hand to shake it, and we had a rather brief conversation because I had to get going. But that was the first meeting I had with him. Very personable, very, I'd say, reserved, and very pleasant. He had a reputation of writing a letter every day to his wife.
Aww.
He was just one of the guys. He was not even
Beware of propellers.
Curiosity. He took him for who he was, and he was a great guy, and he was a great shipmate to have. He was just one of the fellows in the squadron. The fact that he was black, I think, left almost everybody's mind after just a few moments of being with him. He did everything in the squadron that everybody else did. It was a welcome addition to anything we did. There was one time that several of the fellows with Jesse went into a restaurant and they were turned back at the restaurant because Jesse was with them. I guess there were 3 or 4 other fellows, so that small group said they wouldn't go in without Jesse.
Yeah.
Jesse sometimes offered to take them into restaurants where the clientele was primarily black or foreign, and they wouldn't let them in because the whites were
man.
at the time. And this was just a glimpse of what Jesse was going
Racism
through
sucks
all his
ass.
life.
On December the 4th, 1950, the men formed part of an element flying a mission to support US Marines near the Chosin Reservoir.
It was a brutal time, most of it caused by the weather and the almost unbelievable arduousness of the flying. When I heard Bill Caney call on the radio, Jesse just streaming something. It looks as if he's streaming fuel.
Oh,
Jesse came back
that's
after
not
a
good.
moment. He said, "Yes, I am losing fuel, and I don't know how long I'll be able to stay up." So right away, the rest of us in the flight looked around to see if there were any possible spots that he could land.
No.
There's a fairly large clearing, not on a level spot, but relatively level, and he headed over for that spot, streaming fuel all the time. While he was concentrating on doing what he had to do in a cockpit, which was losing power,
Shit.
I called to make sure that his shoulder harness was locked and that his canopy was open and locked open.
Oh,
So
boy.
the procedure for us at that time always have the cockpit canopy open so that he could egress the airplane quickly.
He's gonna get
So
stuck.
when he landed the airplane, a lot of snow came up when he landed, but when he stopped and things settled down, we
Oh.
saw that the canopy had slammed shut from the force of the landing, and the fuselage was bent at the cockpit from the
Oh,
force
he's
of the
fucking
crash.
stuck.
Well, all I could see was that he did land. I don't know whether to say successfully or not, but he landed without bursting into flame or anything like that. About half a minute or so before everything settled down and the snow settled in, we saw that he had opened the canopy and waved at us to let us know that he was alive.
Oh.
But he sat in the cockpit. He didn't move, from what we could
Does
see.
he have broken legs or some
And
shit?
you could see that there was some smoke coming out from
Oh,
under
no.
the cowling of the airplane. Then the flight leader came back and told us that a helicopter was on the way, but it would take a while before he could get there. And because of the length of time it had taken to get there, and because of the smoke coming from under the cowling, I made the decision to make a crash landing near Jesse
Dude.
and pull him out of the cockpit while awaiting the rescue helicopter. And the flight leader, I don't think he knew that I was leaving formation.
Oh,
to do
man.
that. But I was determined to do it because I was concerned about the fire, the airplane breaking out into flame, and Jesse not being able to get out. I dropped my ordnance. What
Smart.
I wanted to do was get as light as I could for landing
Yeah.
in that terrain. So I landed and ended up about 100 yards away from Jesse's.
Oh, that propeller's busted.
I was okay. It took about only 3 or 4 seconds for the airplane to stop. And my canopy was open, of course. It turns out that I hurt my back a little bit, but
Oh,
in the
yeah.
excitement of everything
Dang, I got the scratchies again.
was happening, it didn't deter me from moving around. I really hit hard, and frankly was lucky that I didn't get hurt any more than I was. I was got out of my plane and went up to his, and Jesse had seen me coming, and his first words were, "Tom, we've got to figure out a way of getting out of here." I could hardly believe how calm he was under the circumstances. He had taken his helmet off, so he's barehanded. His hands were frozen. And I think what had happened was that he took his gloves off to unbuckle his parachute, and he dropped his gloves so that they were down on the floor of the cockpit and he couldn't reach them. I used to carry a woolen cap pocket of my flying suit, and I pulled that down over Jesse's head and ears, and then I had a scarf, and I wrapped the scarf around his hands, which couldn't have done any good at all, but I'd hoped that they would give him a little bit of help.
Yeah.
I was able to, with great difficulty, pull myself up onto the wing and then alongside the cockpit, and could see that the reason he didn't get out of the airplane was because he was caught in between the inside of the cockpit and a control stick that we had. It was between our legs, and he just couldn't move. The snow, as I said earlier, is about 2 feet deep. Jesse and I talked a little bit. There wasn't much conversation that went on. He said to me, "Tom, if anything happens to me, tell Daisy how much I love her."
Aww.
Eventually, the rescue helicopter got there. But despite their best efforts, Jesse could not be freed, and he was succumbing to the bitter cold.
Oh, man.
Even getting to the cockpit was very difficult with the airplane on a slope and with the deep snow. They considered more extreme measures to get Jesse out of the plane, but with the conditions they had, it was virtually impossible.
Shit.
Deep in enemy territory, in the mountains, with night falling, and with the prospect of capture, they were forced to make the difficult decision on what to do
Don't
next.
leave him.
Tom spoke to the helicopter pilot.
He just said, I'm not equipped for flying at night in mountainous terrain. He said, I've got to go. And he said, you can stay here, but I've got to get my airplane out of here. And it was so obvious that there's nothing we could do for Jess at that time.
Oh, shit.
By the time we left him, he had expired.
No.
For his extreme bravery, Tom was awarded the Medal of Honor by President Truman. Jesse's wife Daisy was present at the ceremony to represent Jesse. And so Tom was, on that day, able to keep his promise and deliver the last words of his friend. Some months later, Daisy experienced an incident that happened while walking home. She gave an interview recounting the story in detail. She was walking home from class, going back to her apartment, and as she got in the complex, she looked down at her car and stopped. She asked her friend, "Look at my car and tell me what you see." Her friend replied, "That's Jesse, sitting in your car."
What?
Both women agreed that they could see Jesse in his green uniform,
Like they
sitting
saw his
in his
ghost?
Dodge Wayfarer. When they got up close to the car, he was gone. Daisy was certain that she had been visited by the spirit of Jesse and said, wherever he was watching over Pam and me.
That must have been a ghost. I want to see what the fuck Brass Rain is. Because I know that they were working on a game. Fight iconic battles of World War II in Brass Rain. Choose your side and complete missions as you experience the battle like never before. Work as a team to support your brothers and defeat the enemy. Maybe you can even change history. It does not say what computer it would be on. Okay, it says like window. Okay, I have Ventura or Sonoma. I don't know. Whatever the fuck the newest one is. So yeah, it looks like I can play that. I will see you guys in the next one.